Hey everyone, it's Chris from Crafty Creations by CV. Today I'm going to be doing a patriotic welcome home wreath. I had a person reach out to me and ask if I could do a tutorial on this. So I figured with 4th of July coming up or just service members coming home, great time to do this wreath. This is what it's going to look like when we're finished. I'm going to go through the supplies used as well as post them on my Facebook page so that you have the supplies and where to get them. And then I'm going to show you what petals we're going to be using as well as the board and the florals. So to begin with, we're going to be using the Unique in the Creek, the small board. Okay. I preloaded the board with the zip ties. So I'm going to turn it to the back so you can kind of see where we're going to be putting our petals. So on the small board, you have 5 rows. Okay. So your outer row is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have like these 2 little holes I call row 5, but it's not labeled 5. So on the first row, when you load your zip ties, okay, you're going to be loading. There's these regular holes, which are the 2 holes that are smaller. And then there's 2 other holes that have a wider gap. You're going to be filling every set of holes with a zip tie. As well as up top here, you're going to have 2 holes that are for your hanger. Those are not going to be filled with zip ties. Okay, so you're going to be using the holes for the regular holes here. And then you're going to use the larger gap here, not the hanger hole. Okay. So on row 1, you're going to preload zip ties into every single set of holes. On row 2, you're only going to be doing sets of the regular holes. Okay. So you'll have 8 zip ties on the second row. On row 3, again, you're just going to be doing the regular holes. So you'll have 8 sets of zip ties there. And then on row 4, again, you're going to be using every set of holes. So you'll actually have 8 zip ties there. Okay. So I'm going to just put this aside for just a moment. Again, it's a small board from Unique in the Creek. And I'm just going to demonstrate the petal folds that we used for this one. So the mesh for the stars is a blue burlap from Michael's Crafts. It's a pretty thick, like a stiffer burlap. So I found like the best petal for me to do with this is the Star Trek petal. So I'm going to show you how to do that. With this mesh, you're going to want to start with a square. Okay. The mesh itself, the burlap itself, I believe is 9.5 inches. So when you cut this, you want to make sure you're cutting it at 9.5 so that you can have a perfect square. Okay. So I'm just going to put that aside. So what you're going to do is you're always going to kind of turn your square into a diamond shape with your factory seamed edges in your upper left corner and your lower right. You're going to take your point at the top and you're going to bring it down to the point on your bottom. And then you're just going to kind of run your fingers across the top, just kind of make a little seam with it. Okay. Then you're going to take your right corner and you're going to bring it over on top of your left and just kind of line up your points. And again, you're just going to kind of smush it down with your hand. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like once you do that. So to make the Star Trek petal, we're just going to kind of turn this to the left here. And I think there are a variety of ways to make this. This is just the way I found it's easier for me. But if you go on Unique in the Creek, she does have tutorials of the different petal folds that she's come up with. So you're just going to basically put your finger on your point up here, okay? And you're just going to find your middle part, all right? And you're just going to kind of pinch it a little bit. So this mesh is really stiff, especially since we folded it over. So you kind of have to really, get a good grip on it. Then what I do is I'm going to take this top corner and this bottom corner and bring them together like that, okay? And then what I'm going to do is just take this and I'm going to push it down on top of where I pinched that. Okay, so it's going to look like that. And I'm just going to now bring the top edge and the bottom edge in. And this is where is a little bit tougher because you really have to give it a squeeze. Okay. And then I just take a little zip tie, or you can use an elastic band, either or. And I'm going to put a zip tie around this. Okay, so you have like a little nub here on the end. And just add your zip tie, and you're going to pull that tight. And you're about a 4-inch petal from the tip to where you're putting your zip tie. So if you kind of do a little measurement, all your petals will be the same size. Okay. And then all you do is you're going to clip your zip tie, and then you can cut this little bit off because you don't need it. Okay. So I just kind of cut that off. And that's what your Star Trek petal is going to look like with this burlap mesh. Okay. I'm going to do that again for you. So again, you'll have your square. And with this, you can use a rotary cutter because you're not going to be seeing the edges. So you don't want to wood burn this type of mesh. So you're going to do your diamond, take your top corner, bring it down to your bottom corner. You're going to take your right side, your right point, and bring it over to your left point and just kind of flatten it out again. That's what it's going to look like. Turn your point so it's on your left-hand side. And then you're just going to kind of pinch in the middle, and you just kind of keep the left hand on top of the mesh where it's pinched, and use your right hand to take those both corners. Okay. So you just kind of bring them up and then push them down right where you pinched. And then, like I said, you just bring in the top and you bring in the bottom, and it's a little bit tough because it's kind of really thick once you kind of fold it like this. And you can kind of give this a little tug and this a little tug just to kind of straighten it out. And again, I'm going to take my zip tie. And if you put your point on a spot on your mat, so like I have mine on 10, I know that at 14 is where I want to put my zip tie, and I'm going to have nice even petals. Okay, I'm going to do our zip tie. And then we're going to cut this little piece off on the end here because then it won't be really bulky. All right. And again, there is our Star Trek petal with the burlap. The next type of mesh we're going to use is from Unique in the Creek. It's a farmhouse fabric mesh. And I think I don't know if it's called a faux jute or fabric mesh, but I'll put the number on there. I think I have it here. Yes. So it's a faux jute farmhouse stripe mesh, and it's a burgundy red cream. Okay. I've used this a few times, and I actually really, really love it. And the colors are so vibrant. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to do a Star Trek petal again with this, as well as another petal. So to do the Star Trek petal again, so you want to look at this mesh is a little bit different. So I was saying this mesh is 9.5. If you look on here, this is 10.25. So to get a perfect square, you're going to want to cut at 10.25. And again, you can use a rotary cutter for this because we're not going to be seeing any of the edges. So you're going to start with your curl side up. Again, turn it into a diamond, factory edge upper left, lower right. You're going to take your point again. It's the same exact thing we did with the burlap. And you're going to bring it down and just kind of smooth it out. And you can see this is more pliable. This is going to move a little bit better for you. This was like a really stiff burlap. Going to bring that right corner. You're going to bring it over to the left. Okay. And again, you're just kind of flatten it down as you go. Okay. So it's going to look like, turn your point to the left. And I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm going to kind of go right into the center, give it a pinch. Keep my pinch with my left index finger and thumb. And I am just bringing up my edges again and then pushing them down right where my pinch was. And then I'm just bringing in the top and the bottom together. And I'm just giving this a little tug to the right here, and it just kind of straightens it out. So here's my point. And right now I'm like at a 15. So if I want to keep them all around 14, I'm just walking my fingers up, and that's where I'm going to put my zip tie. Okay. And that, like I said, that just kind of ensures that your petals are going to kind of all be the same length. Okay, same exact thing. You're going to clip your zip tie. And then again, we don't need this part, so we're just going to cut that part of the mesh off. Okay. And that is going to be your Star Trek petal with the fabric mesh. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to do that again. Okay, so again, curl side up, turn it into a diamond. You're going to bring your top point down to your bottom point and just kind of flatten it out a little bit. You're going to bring your right point over to your left. And again, just kind of flatten it out a little bit. Turn your point to the left-hand side. You're going to pinch that middle and then switch hands. Bring up your two edges and then push it down. Okay, and we're going to bring our sides in and give that little piece a little tug. Okay, and I'm going to line it up so that it's about 4 inches. So around the 14 is where I'm going to put my zip tie. And that'll be our Star Trek petal with the fabric mesh. Okay. And again, I'm just going to clip this. And I'm going to cut this little tail. Okay. So those are our 2 Star Trek petals with the different mesh. Okay. Next one I'm going to do, I'm going to put these all aside, is I don't even know what this is called. I was just playing around folding mesh and it just came up and it was cute. So I used it. So I don't even have a name for it. There might be a name out there if someone else has done it. So let me just show you. So again, curl side up, you're cutting it into a square. You're going to bring your top point to your bottom point. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of flatten it down a little bit. I'm going to take this right corner and I'm going to kind of turn it in and then just kind of put my finger on it down here. So you're taking it and you're turning it in. You're going to flip this under. So it's not that you're just doing this. You're kind of turning that under. And then what you're doing is the same thing here. You're taking it and you're turning it under like that. And then I just kind of turn it to the side and just kind of give it a little smush where it joined and just bring it in like that. Okay, so it's like a little poofy and it's got a little opening there. And again, we're about 4 inches is what our petal size is here. And then you're just going to put a zip tie on that. Okay, and again, just clip your zip tie and cut your edge off. Okay, so that's what that petal is going to look like. And I'll put, when I put the supply list, I'll put how many petals of each that you kind of need. So it's kind of cute. It's just like this little puff. And I'll do that again for you. So diamond shape, take your top point, bring it to your bottom. Just give it kind of mush it out a little bit here. You're going to take this and you're turning it inward and under, just like that. And you're going to do the same here. You're turning it under. And you'll see where these two kind of line up. I'm just kind of smushing it there and then just kind of bringing it together. Okay, so it's just making this like little poof thing. And then I'm just kind of putting my zip tie. I'm just going to see where I'm at here. And we're good. And that is that for the petals. And then we're just going to cut our little edges off here. Okay. So for these blue ones, we're going to be using 16 of the blue burlap petals. Okay. We are going to be using 8 of these petals. And we're going to be using 32 of the fabric Star Trek petals. Okay. So 32, 16, and 8. Okay, those are all of our petals. And the other thing we're going to be using is some florals. This is just, I think I got this from Craft Outlet. It's a clovers. They're really pretty, but you can use any type of florals you want or greenery. And then these little, I think they call them like little, let's see, little pip picks or something. I got this from Hobby Lobby, and they're just in patriotic colors. Okay. So what I did was I just kind of took one stem of these and pushed all the clovers up so that they're up in the top here. And I cut them and I just put a little zip tie on it. Okay. So there are 8 of these clovers, or 8 little bundles of any type of greenery or florals that you want to use. Like I said, these are like little clovers that I had gotten from, I believe, Craft Outlet. And then with the pips, these little picks, what I did was I took a set of 3 and I put them so that the combination, there was a red, white, and blue on each of the top parts. Okay. And then I put 8 of these together, and there's three stems in here. Okay. And then I just put a little zip tie on the end. You can use an elastic, but because they're so tiny and thin, when you do go to put them onto the board, they tend to just kind of slide out unless you're going to use some sort of glue to keep them in place. By adding the zip tie, it gives it more of a hold and security, so it doesn't pull out as easily. Okay, I'm going to put those aside, and let me bring our board back here. All right, so here is our board. Your numbers are always going to be up top. So you have your 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your hanger holes are up here, which we'll put the hanger on it after. So we're going to start placing our petals. So the first petals that we're going to start to put in are the fabric Star Trek petals. Okay, so what you're going to do is just start where your number 1 is. And I'm going to turn it this way just because it's easier to pull the zip ties. But you're just going to put it through your zip tie and just give it a pull. Okay. And then you're going to take another one of those, and you're just going to do this all the way around. So if you prep your petals in advance, all you're going to be doing is placing petals on your board at this point. So when you do these, you want to make sure that the tips, the points of your petals are in alignment, okay? As close as you can get to that. And it just makes it look nicer when they're on the board, okay? And then, like I said, all we're going to do is we're going to place these all the way around, just making sure they kind of line up as we go. Just going to move that other zip tie out of the way here. And it'll go pretty quick. Like I said, if you prep everything in advance, you're basically just at this point putting them on the board. So just kind of line them up, and we'll clip all the zip ties afterwards. And this is all just the fabric mesh Star Trek petal for this row right now. And then, oh, I forgot to show you the sign. So once we get to that point, I'll tell you where I want to say the sign is from Unique in the Creek as well. But I will verify that. So we're just going to keep going around. I find it just easier preloading the board because then you're just putting them in and tightening those zip ties as you go. And these are the Star Trek petals. And like I said, I'm just kind of lining them up. You can kind of see, so you can kind of see how they're all kind of lined up here. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to pause this and then I'll come back on, and once I have all these petals in, we're going to start with the next set of petals. Okay, this way you don't have to watch me put every single petal in. This is when the zip tie gun comes in handy because it doesn't kill your hands and it tightens the zip tie as you go. And some of your petals might turn a little bit, but we can always fix them at the very end. Now we're going to turn it so we're back with our number one up at the top. And here it is right here. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're not actually going to row 2 just yet. Okay. We're actually going to be overlapping on this row 1. So I'm going to take some more zip ties. Okay. And then what we're going to do is on every regular hole, okay, we're going to be putting another zip tie. Okay. So just on the regular holes. So what we're going to do on row 1, and we're going to start where our top is here. And we're going to start with the first set of regular holes. Okay. So here's our hanger. You have underneath your hanger is a set of regular holes. We're going to offset to the right of that. Okay. And we're going to go over the existing zip ties. And we're going to be adding a blue petal. Okay. Every other. So here is your top. Okay. So when you do it, you're going to go the first set of shirred holes. You're going to skip this next set of shirred holes. You're going to add a blue to that set. You're going to skip the set of shirred holes, and you're going to add a blue, and you're going to continue that all the way around. So you're skipping the first set. You're adding a petal. You're skipping, adding a petal, skipping, adding a petal, and you're going to do that to get all the way back around. Then what you're going to do is you're going to put a blue petal, okay, on row 2. You're going to put a blue petal and you're going to add a stem of your greenery. Okay, and I'm just going to turn it this way because it's just easier to put the zip ties in. So you're starting at the top there. Okay. And then you're going to pull it tight. And I'm going to clip that. Okay. So this is how that's going to look. Okay. Now, again, on row 2, we're going to put a zip tie in the next set of shirred holes. And we're going to add a blue, and this is on row 2, and we're going to add greenery. So it's kind of offset a little bit. It's in a little bit more than these other ones are. Okay. We're going to be on row 2 again. We're going to go the next set of regular holes, and we're going to add another blue one. And we're going to add a piece of our greenery again. We're just going to pull that tight. Okay. 2 still. Next set of regular holes. We're going to add a blue and another set of greenery. You can kind of just push it down and flatten it a little bit, make it easier to pull that zip tie. Next set of regular holes on row 2 with the greenery. So row 2 is basically every regular hole. You're going to be having a blue petal, and you're going to be having some greenery. Okay. And this is on row 2. So on row 2, you will have 8 blue petals with 8 pieces of your greenery. And last one. Our blue and our greenery. So just to recap so far, on row 1, you have 32 of your farmhouse faux jute mesh, and that's going into every single set of holes. Okay, so here's our board if we're looking at it. So every set of holes going around, both the regular and the shirred holes, those wider ones, are getting a fabric petal. Then we're going back, and in every other, okay, starting with the offset to your left or your right, either or, you're going to be putting a blue petal in every other, okay, regular set of holes. So you're going to have 8 petals of the blue on row 1. Then you're going to go to row 2, and you're going to basically be filling in the gaps. Okay, so on row 2, you're going to have 8 blue petals with a piece of greenery in it. Okay, now we're going to go to row 3. And in row 3, we're going to use that other petal that we kind of made. We said the petal with no name, I guess we can call this. This is going to go in every set of your regular holes that we preloaded. So we have 8 of these. So these you're just going to put in. Again, I'm just going to turn it this way because I can't seem to pull the zip ties that way. So these are going to go right in here, and then you're going to pull them tight. So they're just going to kind of set over. And you can kind of spread out your greenery if you know, we can do that at the end, or if you want to do it as you go and just kind of spread out your greenery there. So every set of regular holes on row 3, we're going to be putting the fabric mesh again in that funky petal that we did. And I'm just going around and putting those in. And just make sure you put them in the same way. So you kind of want the way the folds are going, just have those in the same direction. And we're just, like I said, on row 3, we're filling every set of regular holes with this design. And I'll clip the zip ties so that you can kind of see it a little bit better. And don't worry about like the gaps that you see here and stuff, because we can kind of push these together a little bit. Plus we're going to be having the sign on it. Okay. So we can be pulling some of the florals through a little bit. Okay. So now that that's done, okay. So row 3, we have 8. Now we're going to go and we're going to add our little picks that we have here. So these are going to go in, you're going to put a set of these for row 4. You're going to put a set of these, okay, right in here. And this is where, like I said, if you put it over the zip tie, they don't really pull out, okay? And if you want, just to keep them in place, you can always add a little dab of hot glue over the stem part so that it doesn't shift inward on you. Because sometimes they do tend to move around, especially when you have the wider holes here. So every set of holes on row 4 is going to get one of these little picks. Okay. And so if you kind of prep everything beforehand, the assembly itself goes fairly quickly. A lot of it is the prep work ahead of time. Like I said, we're just taking these and going right around the zip tie to hold it in place so it doesn't pull out. And then we'll add a dab of hot glue on the bottom part of the stem so that it doesn't shift inward on you. And you're going to have 8 of these, and you can add more picks. I just did 3, but if you want to add more, you can, you know, put however many you want in there. Or if there's a different, you know, type of pick that you like, you can add that, or you can add more florals or more greenery if you want. More. And that's just kind of laying right over where your greenery is. That's where that's kind of laying over. And our last set. So the picks end up laying over where your greenery is. I just want to make sure I can still get at my holes in the center here because we're going to be hanging our sign. So what I'm doing is just clipping the ends of some of the picks just so that I have better access to where the holes are so that when I go to put my pipe cleaners in, it's not a challenge trying to get them around these little stems. That'll just make it easier. So you can see that like these will move around. So that's why if you just add a little bit, like a little dab of the hot glue on the ends, it'll just kind of keep everything in place for you. Let's see if my glue gun is ready yet. No, not ready just yet. I'm just going to pull these up. So I'm waiting for that to heat up a little bit. So this is the sign we're going to use. Okay. It is, I believe it is a 8-inch sign. Yep. 8-inch sign. And again, I believe I got this from Unique in the Creek. I'll look it up for you just to make sure that's where I got it from. You're going to put these little cable mounts on the back with some E6000. And I use the 3M automotive tape. I think it's a 1/2 inch width. And I find that it just helps to hold your mount on better because if you use just hot glue, and I learned this the hard way, the hot glue melts in the heat and your sign will fall off on your customer. So I use now a combination of the E6000 with the 3M automotive tape. And I also then add a little dab of hot glue over the tape. So hopefully with all 3 of those, my sign won't fall off. And then I just put a pipe cleaner through it. Okay. And then we're going to be feeding the pipe cleaners through the middle hole. So let me just see if my hot glue gun is set so that I can just add those little dabs before we put our sign on. Let me see here. And yeah, I'm just about ready. So I'm just kind of putting a little dab of hot glue on the ends. It's not totally ready yet, but just right on the ends there. You just add like a little dab. So it's just going to hold that in place for you. So it's not going to shift inward or outward. Let's see, there we go. A little bit more here. So just right over the ends there. Perfect. So then once that takes a moment to harden for you, you're going to take your sign and just look to see where your hanger is on the back. Okay, so you know that's your top. You're going to take your pipe cleaners and you're going to feed those through the 2 center holes there. Okay, so these 2 right here. You can see them on the back. These 2 here, that's where you're going to put your sign. And like I said, just kind of feed your pipe cleaners through the holes. And just kind of line up your sign. Make sure it looks how you want it to look. It's facing correct direction. As you can see, you don't see those little gaps that were in there. Okay. And then we're going to just flip it over and you're going to pull it tight and just kind of tie it. And then you can tuck those back in. Okay. Just like that. And look how nice and clean the back of your board looks. So turn it over. And then you can go through if you see little areas where you maybe see a little zip tie. Hold up here so it's not clear. You just kind of pull your, readjust your mesh and your florals how you want it. And there you have it. And sometimes I do find, and this is just a preference of mine, the Star Trek petals tend to turn a little bit. So sometimes what I do, so you can kind of see here, this one kind of popped up and this, and I like them to stay nice and even, okay? Especially if I'm selling this for, for a customer. I will line them up and take a little dab of the hot glue right where the edges meet, and then put a little clip on it for a moment. Okay. And then I'll go around the entire outside and do that so that all of the petals are facing upward. Okay, that you don't have some that are facing kind of wonky on you. So I will go around and do that on the whole outer part of my wreath. Okay. If you have any questions, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, just reach out, message me, or send me a comment, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you guys again soon.